I thought we had been.
Nope. Trying to learn my lesson to get things set up before I go. At least a little bit. 0 people watching.
That number will
We're on an
rise.
overcast sunrise cruise. I don't know how much of a sunrise we're going to get.
Is it chilly there?
53. Not too bad.
Well, I live south of the Mason Dixon, so I'm going to call that chilly.
Yeah. I also grew up south of the Mason Dixon, and that's not very cold.
Oh no, it gets way colder, but like that's chilly still.
That's kind of perfect if you ask me. Like hoodie weather. If you get outside and you're working your ass off, you be outside in a t-shirt. But other than that, hoodie weather. I like it.
Hmm.
Do 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 do. Where's the share button? There we go. Muffin Top General. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see a pretty sunset today or sunrise.
Because of the overcast or because of your angle?
A little bit of both.
Right before
I'll
you
be
went
headed.
live, yeah,
I'll be headed
real
more of
pink.
a southerly direction here shortly. Might be able to see it better.
Oh, well, I can look out the window and see it.
So as you were saying, selling nothing but hunting rifles right now.
Oh no, it's a mix of stuff. Handguns are always a thing year round. Now, if anything, we're about to enter that Christmas season.
That season where people do what they probably shouldn't do and buy firearms for someone else.
I mean, you can legally gift a firearm.
Yeah, but it's like getting another dude underwear. Like, not sure they're going to fit the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I strongly encourage gift certificates, and then that way that person can come in and get exactly what they want. It is really disappointing,
I mean,
when
it's
people.
wonderful. It's wonderful getting a firearm. Like you open it up and be like, oh. But But at the same token, it's like, is it really the one you're looking for?
Yeah, I feel bad for those guys that end up with like 9/10 of what they meant,
Yeah.
and then now they're honor bound to stick with it, and it wasn't, you know, wasn't the trim package they were actually after, or
Wrong
the
caliber.
caliber or something. Yeah, have you seen those new Henry Supreme lever actions?
I have not.
So they're not real. Supreme is a weird name for it. I don't know where they came up with that, but think Browning BLR looking aesthetic from the side. Kind of a there's not an exposed hammer on these, which the BLR has. But anyway, think like Browning humpback receiver, sort of humpback shotgun receiver, taper sporter barrel, and it's mag fed. They're jamming them in 223/556 and then 300 blackout. That feed from AR magazines.
This is a lever gun.
Uh huh. Blued steel and
Well,
wood,
that
but
look.
feeds from an AR mag. Tang safety.
Is this like a workaround firearm?
They're not going after the like tactical rancher rifle. I think they're just going after the like I might put a scope in a can on this and use it around the ranch or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised to let them come around in a year or two if they don't come out with the Tactitard trim package for one, since that's what everybody else is doing. Marlin and well, I mean even Henry's doing it and some of their other more traditional lever guns. But I think one of these in a 350 Legend would be sick. It could be a great straight wall deer season rifle.
Yeah, 223 doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Probably just because it's cheap to plink with. And those guys are
Of
want to
varmints, I
lever
guess.
action. Yeah, and for guys that I think there's probably a niche market, like a sliver of overlap in the Venn diagram of guys that already have ARs and are bored with them and want an AR. And if it eats something they're already stocking, maybe it has some appeal. And then 300 blackout just makes sense because it's like the
Yeah,
most logical
subsonics would be
sort of.
pretty.
Yeah, exactly. The most economical center fire subsonic you can get into. And it'd be
But it's a
something more
but
than
it's a Henry,
25
so it's
HPG.
but it's a Henry, so it's probably twice as much as it should be.
Uh, I don't recall what MSRP is, but Street's about 1050.
So I've been looking for a lever gun for a little while, and I like the Henrys, but I don't like their price tag.
Made in America or not made at all. They do command a premium. Of course, all the lever guns are high now. The Ruger Marlins are, I think, among the nicest of the Marlins ever made. But, they're some of the SKUs have calmed down, but they're still 10, 11, 12, 13.
Do you think the the Trump slump affects like tactical shit more than it does the regular, like lever actions and revolvers and stuff like that.
Yeah, because those guns are already niche anyways. And so like if sales of those slow down, then they can just backpedal the number they're shipping, and then after they kind of starve the market a while, they can take up the price a little. The tactical stuff really volume drives that market, unless you're buying, Gucci stuff, like the stuff that's high end because it's either like super precise or they're using like exotic materials and finishes. That stuff kind of is able to do the same thing. Like Noveski is an example that comes to mind, or Battle Arms Development used to do like the super light ARs where they would like carbon fiber and um, they'd like weigh Swiss cheese the upper and lower, and then I think at one time they were experimenting with not magnesium lowers, but maybe titanium. I don't remember. There was some other metal that's super light. They were doing those.
I have a magnesium lower from who makes the 22 conversion barrels? CMMG.
Conversion. Yeah,
That doesn't sound right. Anyway, it's stupid light. I thought about using that to make one of my SBRs, but then I'm concerned about lasering it. Like, if I try to laser my information into it, is it gonna like?
yeah. If I start this fire, I can't put it out.
Like, luckily I'm close to a window. Just open window, throw.
Yeah, in that instance, I probably wouldn't laser it. I would just strike it. You just want to be sure you support that area.
I have a little mini CNC machine too. That's just much harder. Well, we had a third person in here for a second. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
looking
I didn't
around
even see
for lever guns. I like the ones that have the bigger lever on the bottom. What do they call that?
big loop, large
Yeah, the
loop.
big loop, large loop. And I'd like it in one of the pistol calibers that I already have, like 44 mag or 357 mag.
Yep.
I feel like that would make a good kicking around the woods combo.
A perfect pair, if you will.
Yeah, something like that.
Rossi's come a long ways in the last few years. I think as the whole lever gun market, like kind of inflated in price. Theirs did too by virtue of just being the cheapest. But at least they seem to have reinvested into like fit and finish QC, and they've converted over all their product line instead of being the Winchester clones, the R92s. Now they're doing everything in what they call an R95, which is more of a Marlin clone, regardless of caliber. I mean, they've got them from 357 all the way up to 4570, 444 Marlin. They seem to be pretty nice for the money. I mean, they're just nice. I mean, They're I would say that 9 out of 10 of them are what you would have expected out of a Walmart grade Marlin 336 a decade ago. I mean, as far as fit and finish, you're not paying for premium fit and finish, but they're reasonably smooth and they seem to work. And most people report minute of deer accuracy.
Yeah, I keep wanting to do like some kind of Henry, uh, maybe just a Henry 22, and laser the shit out of it, put my family name on it, and try to make a heirloom.
Yeah. You get one of the Golden Boys. Henry will sell you the side plates separately, either for you to have engraved or you to do or whatever. And then that way you still have. You can do different. Like if you wanted to do a batch of those side plates all at one time, once you got the laser set up, whatever, you could do like you know 5 of them at a time, or whatever. So that way, over the years, if you gifted like grandkids rifles or whatever, you might buy the guns separately, but that way you engraved all the side plates at the same time, same pattern.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Instead of having just one, then you got to figure out who you're going to gift it to. And
Yep.
look, people.
Are you in Oklahoma?
Yeah, real close to the state line.
So it looked very Oklahoma-y.
What's the difference between Oklahoma E and and Arkansas E?
Uh, Flat, and then they do a lot of those large median divided highway interstate. Seems like it becomes that in Arkansas they don't have the little running wires or whatever over in the median
Ah,
most of the way. Or it seems like Oklahoma has it everywhere they can get it up.
yeah, I don't know how those things fare against cars, but the big rigs go through those like they aren't even there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I doubt they do a whole lot for a big car or one going crazy over the speed limit. But it would make me feel more comfortable to know that the oncoming traffic at least kind of has a net to crash through first, if you will. Especially here in a month or two when we start getting precipitation, everybody has to learn how to drive on ice again because that's what it is. We don't really get enough snow most years to brag about driving on snow. It's that we get like sleet and freezing rain, and it's like everyone has to relearn how to go slow, maintain speed, and not make sharp turns or slam the brakes on. And then after we get that first one out of our system, the rest of the winter it's usually pretty all right. Everybody knows to slow down, leave a little earlier, expect traffic delays, avoid the bridges and
Yeah,
overpasses if you can help
you
it.
know, driving for a living, you see it all out here, and most people can't even drive in the damn rain. Just when the roads are wet, you start seeing the increases in people spinning out and stuff, and like single car accidents, like you just drove shitty and now you're in the ditch. It wasn't because someone else made a mistake or there was traffic even. You just a dumbass and don't know how to drive. Then the big rigs are just as bad themselves. They think they can still do 70 miles an hour when the roads are covered.
I have been amazed by how many semi trucks will hog the left lane for longer than necessary. And then when they finally get over and you do want to pass them because traffic's kind of stacking up, like I hate being right behind the semi truck and then everybody run up my ass and pass me for miles and miles. Like I really like to just go the speed limit but be spread out, you know. I start
Yeah.
getting anxious when I get up behind the semi and then I go to speed up to pass them and it's like they speed up too. Like it's a
uh,
big middle finger.
you know, some people might be assholes like that, but a lot of guys like me, we're stuck at 65 now. So
Hmm.
I can't go any faster than 65. And going up even just little hills makes me slow down. So then when you crest that hill and start going down the other side, I'm going to start accelerating. So some people might be doing it just to be assholes, or it might be a guy like me that just has a cruise control set, and as I can only go as fast as I can go.
Might be.
But I hear you about people being jammed up your ass. That happens all the time. Like if I get behind someone stupid slow, and I'm like, okay, here comes a nice big opening for me so I can get over and pass them. Nope. Everybody and their freaking brothers coming out from behind me and taking my spot.
Yeah, I'm not out to speed necessarily. You know, I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere. I just that you know I like to leave plenty of room for air either end of me if I can help it.
Patriot from Warsaw. I sent you a link.
Yesterday's
Bolt
Palme said he
action,
has. Yeah, you read it.
Rossi Henry, and a Marlin. That's cool. Prefer bolt action over a lever action. I feel like the lever action is much faster than a bolt. Unless you're going to try one of those weird things where you leave your hand on the bolt handle and pull the trigger with your middle finger. I saw a guy shooting a competition with a lever action or a bolt action, and he beat everybody with semi-automatics because he couldn't
Huh.
just jank on the trigger and miss the way everyone else was. He had to actually take his time and aim. And even though it took him a little bit more time, his accuracy made it up for it. Less penalties. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he was doing that weird. I don't even know what you call it. You just leave your thumb and your index finger on the bolt, and you pull the trigger with your middle finger, and then
Hmm.
run the bolt.
Yeah, what the Brits called the Mad Minute.
Is that what that is?
It was some standard of marksmanship. You had to maintain some standard of marksmanship, but they wanted you to fire all 10 rounds in your Lee Enfield, reload. I think and fire 10 more. You had to have 20 rounds on like a reasonable sized area target. And it wasn't that they were out to just waste ammo. It was that was what you were the standard you were supposed to train for in case you either were getting overrun or I think if there were cavalry or something that came out of the Boer Wars. The As an unofficial historian,
Oh, it sounds like something cool
I forget
to
the
try at
gentleman,
least.
the field officer that came up with that and set that standard, but that was what they wanted.
I just watched a video, I think yesterday, It was about the Korean War, and right after it looked like they're just going to completely lose, and they like go around the peninsula and attack from the other side. And then they're so successful, they decide let's just keep going up into North Korea, and they got almost all the way to the border with China, and then they
Hmm.
started running into like serious soldiers. And it was actually the Chinese, but the upper brass wouldn't believe it that they were Chinese. And the guys on the ground are like, I have like 3 of them captured right here. They're Chinese. And the upper brass is like, no, they're not. Keep going. But I'm trying to imagine those guys with bolt action rifles. Because when they finally encountered, it was something like, I want to say 40,000 Marines up there total. And it might not even been that much. And an estimated like 140,000 Chinese. And when the initial attack happened, it was in the middle of the night, and they couldn't even keep them off with machine guns because there's
Hmm.
just so many of them. And what caught me was like something from Enemy at the Gates watching the Russians. They send dudes out there that don't even have a rifle. Like, run out there. There's rifles on the ground. Just pick one up and start shooting.
Yeah. My grandfather was in
And
the
they did the
Arkansas
same thing.
Guard. My grandfather was in the Arkansas Guard just prior to Korea and was out just before, like, he was already teaching professionally about Vietnam. So he kind of like his age worked out just perfect that he, you know, didn't end up having to serve in either one of those, and he never considered himself a veteran. We've that what we consider a veteran these days has kind of gotten really broad. Not to discredit anyone's service at whatever capacity, whatever experience, but he always took it as veteran meant you were a combat veteran. It means you got shot at, maybe got shot, like that. To him, that was a veteran. But all that to say that he was in just after his unit had gotten back from Korea, within the past couple of years. So there were still a bunch of guys still in that had served over there. And he talked about they would take the Quad 50 half tracks that would have the 4 Browning machine guns on it, meant to be anti-aircraft, you know, mobile anti-aircraft emplacements. And like you said, those human wave assaults where they would just run at them, they would park those trucks at weird angles so they could level the 50s off. Can you just imagine that carnage?
Ugh.
I mean,
uh, my best friend growing up, his a couple of his uncles served in Vietnam, and the one guy, he was artillery, and he said that like their position was starting to get overrun, and I mean all they had was a couple rifles and shit. Like they had no chance. But somebody thought, well, let's just level out this artillery, whatever the hell they were shooting was able to be leveled out across the field. And he said it was like something out of a cartoon. Like, if you see a cannonball shot in a cartoon and it just
hmm
like stacks the people up and they fly different directions. He said it was carnage.
I know even today the artillery units practice not only indirect fire but also direct fire. So they have fire missions where they go train. They'll level the guns off and try, basically use the piece like a tank.
Like, I don't mean to laugh. Like, it's all pretty horrendous, but it's kind of comical. And the nonchalant way that some of those guys talk about it. Like his uncle was saying, I just thought about them like groundhogs. They were
Yeah.
trying to kill me, so I was trying to kill them.
I'm sure there were probably some more gory or inappropriate stories that I never milked out of my grandfather. But between him being my grandfather and, like I say, being a almost 40-year teacher, it was hard to get him to not talk to you like a kid. I guess because young me like lapped up all of the stories he would tell. And like I say, because his experience was not of actual like active service overseas anywhere, it was just a whole lot of stories. What he calls summer camp, what we would call AT now, just different trainings and stuff. They would do op 4 with blanks and like firecrackers and stuff. I guess they were supposed to be careful with that because the blanks then, you didn't have a blank firing adapter. So like these .6 rounds would have like a paper wad or something to provide enough back pressure to cycle the gun. And a couple of guys got overzealous one time and then like point blanked another dude with M1 Garand, like buried a piece of like cardstock in his sternum.
Oh,
Can you imagine that? Functionally all of the downsides of being shot with none of the upsides.
I don't want any of it.
He did say that a bunch of those vets, the ones that had like the 1,000-yard stare, had nothing good to say about the M1 carbine. But I think that's because they were employing them. They were trying to shoot them beyond their effective range, and like you had mentioned, I think you mentioned, they got way up there into what we would call North Korea now in the winter, and all those guys are wearing heavy jackets. And particularly, if they took off running away, like if you repelled the assault and they turned around to retreat, and you spring up and shoot them in the back, they had those backpacks too. So you're shooting through not only like several layers of winter clothing, but then also like a canvas backpack, and that's enough with that little 110 grain bullet. You know, 200 yards beyond. You know,
Didn't have enough energy to create any damage.
yeah, and let alone knock a guy down. I mean, and 30 carbine even just compared to 30-06, but is anemic. So those guys, the lay soldier then would not have. Not say that those guys were uneducated or not smart or whatever, but like there's just a huge disparity in quote unquote knockdown power between 30 carbine and 30-06 to begin with. Let alone you start trying
It's
to
a
zap a dude at several hundred yards with one over the other.
yeah, it's a trade off. Like the increased ammo capacity, I don't know how much you can carry of that stuff. It's a trade off. Like more ammo, less power.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same trade off you make even today.
Well, I'd 100% take a maintained, hand selected like government issue 30 carbine. Then I'd have took that over the M1 Garand for sure. Because the guy that I can't hit with the M1 carbine, he's far enough out that he's of no concern to me, really. And that's kind of how I feel about an AR. That's why, I know Muffin Top's big on the LPVOs and stuff. And I know his terrain, his area of operation varies from mine, differs from mine. But I can't, in
Yeah,
any
unless you're on a
scenario,
highway or like a power line cut, what's the best you're going to get out in the woods? 75 yards?
well, and I'm just
You,
talking. I mean, even in town or something like with rule of law, let alone without, without rule of law, let alone within rule of law. Like I just there's not a scenario that I can drum up in my mind where I would ever intentionally engage somebody further than I could positively ID them by the naked eye, anyways.
Well, that's only like 50 feet from me.
Well, okay, I guess I shouldn't say positively ID, but like if they weren't already like leveled off shooting at me, I would have no reason. I would just avoid that person. Like it would
Yeah,
never.
you win every fight you don't get in.
Right. And there's no. You can, and with a 3-power magnifier, like you could glass somebody far enough, far enough away. Like you would basically, you have to be like Carlos Hathcock. You'd have to like the two of you like be glassing each other to like accidentally see each other at further than 300-400 yards.
Yeah, I saw a video. Somebody did a comparison between a red dot and a 3x magnifier and an LPVO, and they were just going across like a field out in the woods. And it's one thing if you have like a painted target that you're looking for with a 3x magnifier and a red dot, and it's an
Hmm.
entirely another thing when it's another person that's trying to not be seen. And
Yeah.
the red dot and the magnifier were like wholly inadequate. And the only reason that you had the LPVO was the extra magnification was just for location and target identification. Like if you were
Yeah.
going to get in a fight with it, you'd probably want to crank it back to about 3 or 1 once you knew where the target was. But just for the location and identification, needing the extra magnification.
Hmm.
And I guess that can be accomplished with binoculars. But
It
then
really
but
can.
then if you see somebody on your binoculars, then you got to you know transition over to your firearm and try and find them again. And hopefully they didn't see you.
I don't know. Just as a one-man show, I'm content with the dot and magnifier because I'm not going to go looking for confrontation. I,
I don't think any. I don't. Nobody
I
that I talk to, hopefully, is looking for a confrontation.
if one found me, I would like to be able to um, dominate out to probably 300 or so and in, and then I feel like that my current setup will do all that to the best of my ability.
And in this day and age, like you can have both. You have an LPVO with a dot on top or an offset dot. If
You
somebody's right
can.
on
I feel
top of
like all
you,
that.
you train to the dot.
I feel like a lot of that
'Cause
turns into mall ninja stuff.
eh, I mean, I'm liking my dot. I guess the more I get into it, or the older I get, I like my dot higher and higher, so I don't have to really turtle into the rifle.
Yeah,
And if you slap that on top of an LPVO, it's kind of perfect.
yeah. But then do you account for high to bore offset with your zero? Because if you transition the dot for faster up close, the taller that dot gets, the weirder your offset. You start having to
Yeah,
like you either do like a 25-yard zero and then you're like shooting at imaginary kneecaps to try and hit a guy in the chest at 100 yards. Like you got the instead of hold over, you're way holding under. Or if
I
you're
think
doing a
if
100
you,
yard zero, then you're shooting. You have to remember that 2.5 inches of offset. You got to aim for like the imaginary
I
forehead to hit
think
a guy in
at
the
a
teeth.
at 100 yards, you're aiming at the collarbone, basically high chest, and you're gonna hit somewhere in a important spot.
Yeah, I know when I first got my AR. pistol, um, and just kind of had the placeholder like unbranded TRS 25 red dot on it. I was like, this is going to be like a great house gun, and so I zeroed it at 25, and like just could wear out a target with that, 25, 30 yards. And then the first time that I went with some friends to another range we had not been to in a while, and we had a reduced size silhouette that we were all like taking turns tagging it. Like I think it was the 100 or the 150 yard. I don't remember where we stuck it, but I put it just kind of center of the target, ripped off that first shot, and kicked up dirt like way short, and I had to like walk the target down. Ended up at like kind of imaginary knees, mid thigh, to hit like upper thoracic area. And that's when I was like, this 25-yard sucks. So that made me way rethink. Because the idea was like, I want it like dead on the money, 25. That way, like a little closer, a little further, like I'm off maybe an inch. So that
Yep.
what if hostage shot kind of thing. But then that made me realize that was wholly unusable. Like you would never, under duress, would never calculate the mental math. At least like when you do a hold over, your mind kind of conceptualizes that trajectory. But trying to think
Right.
about how much do I hold under while range estimating some guy who's possibly shooting back at you, like I realized that was going to be like just a total suck. So I think I ended up at that time going just a 50-yard zero and calling it a day.
Uh, Something came up over the past week that I never really thought about. I don't know if maybe you have, about using green tip ammo in your AR pistol.
Yeah,
That's
technically
illegal.
that makes it armor piercing ammo. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because
why they.
I was
That's why. That was why that last year of Obama's presidency, they were trying to ban the M855. But go ahead.
uh, I took one of my magazines down to show the guy that I put that clip on that you could hang it on Molly or your pocket or whatever, and I had some green tip in there. And he said, "Fun fact: if you put this in your AR pistol, that's illegal. That's a felony." Like, crap. Never even thought of it like that. So, PSA to the one or two people that are listening right now: don't put green tip in your AR pistol.
Yep.
I didn't think to ask him if that was that's federal, right? Not just
Yeah.
state to state.
Yeah, that's it's federal. It's from the 86. No, it isn't. It might be 68. I'm trying to remember now. Let's see. 68 was the.
I want to say it was from the 80s, so the 86
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's the 86. So this
GCA
whole
or
thing right
whatever.
there, right? Yeah, GCA's Gun Control Act of 68. 86 was FOPA, Firearm Owners Protection Act. But it
Yeah,
outlined
that
like
one.
it outlined those federal definitions of what counted as armor piercing ammunition. Because that was right at the advent of like semi-modern hollow point ammo and body armor, and then that rise in demand from like the police unions and stuff about cop killer bullets and whatnot. And so it's not what we would technically consider armor piercing, like by intentional design. It was by what percentage of what metals and things, and because they've got that light steel core, it counts as a handgun bullet. That's the reason that we stopped getting the steel core 7N6. That was the reason we stopped getting the cheap Chinese steel core 7.62 in the early 90s, was because prior to that, everyone had agreed like, hey, we won't bring in any like AK pistols. And then Olympic Arms came out with their 7.62 by 39 little piston driven AR pistol, and then that's once that was out there, that made ATF say, well, now that ammunition counts as armor-piercing handgun ammo because there's a handgun you can stick it in. And so that's what corked off the cheap Chinese steel core 7.62 by 39 ammo. And that was the whole reason for doing away with the 7N6. And they wanted to stop the import of that. That's why that went away. Was there were AK-74 pattern, 5.45 pattern AK pistols on the market.
So one guy had to go and ruin it for everybody.
Yeah. There were a bunch of people pretty upset at Olympic back in the day for that. But then once they had done that, and you couldn't get any more of that ammo that was really cheap, that's when you saw the wave of like all the Draco type guns. Of course, about the time they had done that was already when you had was right at or just before the Clinton crime bill, the assault weapons ban anyway. So then once that sunset, that's why, the late aughts is when you saw that's really when like the Dracos and stuff kind of became an import thing.
Kind of reminds me of the Glock V series. Like 48 hours, there's already a switch in one.
Mm-hmm.
Like one guy had to go and ruin it for everybody. I bet you Glock is everyone at Glock is like, Jesus God, why can't you just leave us alone?
I know when it was announced, everybody was mad and worried that it was going to be some radical change, to where like, is it going to really even be a Glock anymore? And then come to find out that they didn't change enough, and now people are mad about it. I don't understand all the people getting their jollies off on haha. There's already a switch. Like, yeah, I don't think it was ever even about there not being a switch for it. It was that Glock needed to do enough on paper to say, look, we tried.
Yeah.
I mean, Glock wasn't ever
Hopefully
even
that's enough.
responsible for the. Yeah, and I don't think it's going to get them back into California, but I think it's similar enough that given time for the old guns to dry up in supply, I think people will warm up to them and just accept that this is how Glock makes them now. I mean, it's not any different than when Sig or Smith or somebody else, prominent name, peer firearm manufacturer comes out with a new gun that's a completely different model. It's just this is what we make now. It's not really any more of a change than from an M&P to an M&P 2.0 kind of thing. Like it, 50-60% parts compatibility. All the stuff that really matters is still compatible. It's holster fit, mag, barrel, recoil spring, all that stuff that you were really worried about for like longevity and availability are all the same. So I'm not mad.
I think
and
the slide changed a little bit, the striker changed a little bit.
Yeah.
And the back plate changed a little bit. I think that's about the only thing. The slide had little nubs on it or whatever.
90% of consumers, none of that mattered because most people don't do anything. Like they get it because it's a Glock and they know that they work and it's what their brother-in-law told them to get because he's a cop and that's what he's used for 20 years. The casual firearms owner that's going to spend that nominal $600, like they're going to put their flavor of aftermarket night sight or fiber optic sights on there and shoot 200 rounds through it, know it works, and then revisit it once a year maybe. And then somebody beyond that might put a dot on it, when they get the MOS versions out, So it won't even matter. Most people, I doubt fewer than two people that have legitimately ever worn out a Glock handgun.
I don't know anybody that's ever worn one out. Not personally. I can't say I've even seen anybody online that has a worn out Glock. Maybe like way back in the day, like some of the trigger pins and stuff would start to get loose, but that's about it. That's the only thing I've really seen. And you got to
Mhm.
replace recoil springs every once in a while. I don't even know anybody that's needed to replace a recoil spring.
No, people shoot them way past what Glock recommends replacing them.
I'm sure there's some competition shooters out there that may have gotten that high a round count, but I don't know any of them. I brought up the Glock thing because it's kind of a troll, like haha, it's already got a switch. But at the same token, like nobody's going to be laughing when they sue gun manufacturers, not out of business, but out of selling to our market.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why we as the consumers, as the community, would celebrate that.
Because
That
they can't get them like straight on legal battle like Second Amendment grounds or whatever. They're supposed to be protected from being
yeah,
sued, but they're they're getting around that by using weasel language in the law.
yeah, Placa is supposed to prevent that.
And the
And Placa
first
is not even a
first
super old law. Like that's something that Congress agreed on in like the early 2000s.
That's probably because anti-gun groups were starting to go after the manufacturer. Like they couldn't get it from the people. Like it's enshrined in our Constitution that you can't take the guns from the people, but nobody said we can't, make it impossible to get.
Yeah. Well, now they're just what they're going to do is they're gonna legislate the neutered guns. Like we're gonna come at it from a safety aspect. Of course, not that that's anything new. You've seen the Hillary holes, and you've seen the um, what is it, Massachusetts and one other state that mandates like a stupid heavy trigger pull. Like if you ever get a chance to dick around with a Massachusetts compliant like Smith and Wesson Shield, it sucks.
It's hard enough to shoot like when you said that, I went straight to rifle, and I'm like, I mean, I've seen some pretty heavy triggers on some stuff, but I wasn't even thinking of handguns. Handguns, the trigger is very important.
Yeah, like 10,
Didn't
12
New
pound
York
trigger
do
pull
that?
on a semi-auto. New York police did that. That's where that
Yeah,
Glock New York trigger came from. Was those early New York contracts? I think NYPD. You had three generations of officers that had gone from shooting double action Smith and Colt revolvers to all of a sudden having a 5.5 pound nominal Glock trigger, and they were used to lackadaisically having their finger on the trigger or taking the slack out of the trigger on like a double action revolver. Kind of not enough to roll the cylinder over yet, but enough to kind of almost to stage the wall. In a few incidents of NDs and stuff. So Glock came out with that New York trigger as a request for them, and then now everyone's trying to liken that situation to the deal going on with the 320s. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not even. It's a false equivalency because now you've got a whole fleet of cops that have shot Glocks for 30 years, and from a user interface, a P320 is no different. Like mechanically, yes, the outcome may be achieved differently, but as far as user input and handling, it's the same. So I think everyone's saying that like all these uncommanded discharges or negligent discharges or potentially mechanical defect. You know,
Well, they
it's
call
the
that the
false equipment.
manual of arms. The manual of
Yeah.
arms is the same.
Hmm.
Pull, pull, slide back, pull trigger.
Yeah. Keep finger off trigger if you don't want bang.
Yeah, I don't necessarily
Good
know where I
morning, Tony.
land on that SIG thing. Uh, just the stink of it kind of draws me away from it. I've seen evidence on both sides. It's a mechanical failure. It's a user error. I don't know which way to fall on either side, but just the smell of it makes me want to stay away.
Right. What's the thing is I can confidently say that probably 90+% of all of the examples have just been user error, but there's just enough to get your hackles up. And once if anything ever happened, you would never be able to justify to yourself like, oh, like if something happened to you, you knew better, you know. So
Right.
that
And
logical side of your brain.
if the user error is I put it in my holster wrong, then that's a bad gun, I think. Because I should be able to throw it in that holster however I freaking throw it in there.
Yeah, I mean, you should never get into such a rush that you can't take the time to look the gun into the holster. At least, you know,
In training.
non. Yeah, exactly. But
But the one of the first videos that I saw was the police officers like struggling with a guy. I can't remember. Did he have his gun out and he holstered it while they were wrestling, or they just started wrestling and his gun went off?
you talking about the one in the foyer of the police department or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
Yeah, I think he had it drawn and then reholstered, but didn't seat the gun all the way in the holster, like it was riding high. And then as they were trying to wrap that guy up, him and another officer's belts clacked, and then his gun went off. And then after it went off, it set down in the holster. So like then when he went to go grab it, it was locked in to the duty holster. It started out
Mm,
riding high. It's like he went to holster it but didn't complete the you know push or whatever. And I don't know if that maybe was a bad holster. I know at one point pretty early on, Sig had the audacity to basically blame Safariland, and then Safariland was like, "You might want to retract that. We make holsters for literally everyone else, and nobody else has your problem.
right.
Like we'll
Because I was
we'll
thinking,
sue you for defamation."
the part inside the holster that like clips onto the trigger guard could have pushed on the trigger, but that would be lower. Like you'd have to over insert it in order for that to be an issue.
Yeah. Well, those Safariland ALS holsters, they lock off with the barrel hood anyways, so it's not even in the trigger guard. Now the GLS, they're multi-fit holsters that are level one. They do have a little lever that pivots in and like locks off the face of the trigger guard. Um, but unless you wholly selected the wrong one, you can't. You virtually couldn't over insert it. I mean, it would bottom out on the face of the trigger guard, molding before you could ever push deep enough to have that latch pull your trigger.
Yeah.
That being said, always test fit your holsters with an unloaded firearm and go off what the manufacturer recommends. Like, don't try and cobble something together. Your pistol's holster should not be like your cat in a cardboard box. Just because it fits does not mean it sits.
I see
Pat
twin
is,
arrows.
yeah,
Is
twins in the chat.
is he gonna? Are you gonna do a chat twin?
If not, you got to hit him up with a link. Let him jump in on yours. Keep it rolling. I got to bounce, so I got to go do the three S's and get ready to work.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Take it easy.
Have a good day, everybody.
Yep. Thanks for showing up.
Yep. Drive safe, Pat. See you next time.
Yep. Bye. Well, that was fun. Well, if there's anybody in the chat wants to jump in, hit me with a message on Discord. I'll send you a link. It's kind of boring if it's just me. All right, gentlemen, whoever's left, thanks for showing up. I'll see you when I see you. Y'all be nice.